to the Cut Block Podcast, where we cut through the noise and keep it real. Just because a cut block is legal doesn't make it right. Kind of like Cory Hogue's takes. Now, here's your host, Cory Hogue.
Thank you, Jesse, and welcome to the Cut Block Podcast. This week, we're cutting through the noise and getting real about SWJCFC Realignment. Then we head into the Gridiron Briefing Room, where I'll be joined by Navarro, Executive Director of Student Services and Athletics, and the 2024-2025 NJCAA Athletic Director of the Year, Michael Landers. We discuss last week's realignment news and how it all came about. Then we go into limited resources and the challenges junior college players face and how the transfer portal has impacted junior colleges, and let him brag a little bit on an incredible and talented family that the Landers clan has over there in Navarro. And, of course, close things out with the weekend warm map. It's my personal viewing schedule for the weekend. My name is Cory Hogue, proprietor of CoryHogueSports.substack.com. Find me on social media at Cory Hogue Sports, CoryHogue Sports. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and review the podcast wherever you listen. And you can find every episode on our Substack page. Thank you all for your support this week. And since we began, I greatly appreciate it. It's time to go in the trenches. And change comes to the Southwestern Junior College Football Conference. But change, it's one of those words that college football fans never quite get used to. But in the SWJCFC, change has finally arrived. And for the first time in a decade, the nation's toughest JUCO league has a new face joining the fight and an old warrior stepping away. Snow College is in. Northeastern Oklahoma A&M, better known as NEO, is out. This move closes one chapter and opens another. One written in history, pride, and a little bit of pragmatism. For a long time, SWJCFC fans, losing NEO is bittersweet. The Golden Norsemen weren't just another opponent. They were part of this league's identity. When they joined in 1996, they brought 6 national championships. 1959, 67, 69, 80, 86, and 91. And they're still tied with Butler for the most in NJCAA history. Their arrival back then raised the league's national profile and cemented the SWJCFC as the proving ground for junior college football. For nearly 2 decades, NEO was a threat to win it all. They grabbed conference titles in 98, 02, and 03. Every year, you knew they were going to hit you in the mouth and make you earn every yard. But in recent years, things have changed. They haven't made the playoffs since 2018 and have finished near the bottom of the standings for 5 straight seasons. Their exit feels like watching an old warrior lay down his sword. Proud, respected, but worn down by battles that just got harder over time. One of the biggest factors in that decline, out-of-state player limits. The SWJCFC restricts programs to just 15 out-of-state players. A tough number when you're not sitting in the middle of Texas with its endless football talent. Meanwhile, New Mexico Military Institute has always been exempt from that rule, able to bring in players from across the country. For NEO fans, that imbalance felt like a stacked deck. Competing against Texas JUCOs loaded with homegrown players and against NIMI with none of those restrictions made it nearly impossible to keep up. But the league is adapting. Sources tell me that Texas schools will soon be allowed up to 25 out-of-state players. And Snow will be permitted 35. NIMI will remain exempt. And in today's transfer portal era, that kind of flexibility is crucial. JUCO football isn't just about high school recruits anymore. It's about giving FBS and FCS transfers a second chance. Those extra roster spots matter. So what does Snow bring to the table? Altitude and attitude. The Badgers are a legitimate powerhouse. They've got a national title in 1985 and made a run to the national championship game in 2020-2021. They bring pedigree, consistency, and hunger. And to be honest, the SWJCFC needs a jolt. Since Navarro's national championship in 2010, no Texas team has made the NJCAA title game. Only Nimmi's 2021 title broke the drought for the conference. Adding snow changes the math. They raise the competitive floor, strengthen recruiting across the Southwest, and force every program to step up. Some fans worry about the travel to Utah. That's a small price to pay for the kind of credibility and exposure this league deserves. And sources indicate it won't be as much of an issue as one might believe. And here's the bonus. The NJCAA National Championship is staying right here in Texas at West Texas A&M's Bain Schaefer Stadium, at least for the next 3 years. Last year's title game at Canyon drew barely over 1,000 fans. But imagine if a Texas team or a member of the SWJCFC played for the championship in Texas. That'd be electric, not just for the league, but for the entire JUCO landscape. Beyond the headlines, this realignment signals something bigger, the beginning of a new era. The NJCAA is modernizing, rethinking eligibility, redshirt rules, and roster flexibility. The SWJCFC is adapting, not clinging to nostalgia. Losing NEO hurts, no question. But sometimes history has to make room for the future. Snow College brings that future. They bring tradition, toughness, and competition. They bring new blood to a league that's always thrived on pride and grit. Most importantly, they bring hope that maybe, just maybe, the road to a national championship will run through Texas. The SWJCFC just got stronger, deeper, and more dangerous. Realignment may have closed one door, but it opened another. And this time, that door leads straight towards national relevance. Up next, we head into the Gridiron Briefing Room, where I visit with Navarro Athletic Director Michael Landers. But first, I want you to know the Cut Block Podcast is listener supported, and if you have the means, I'd be honored to have you as a paying subscriber over at CoryHogueSports.substack.com. Again, CoryHogue Sports. Don't forget where that E goes on there. Paid subscribers, you get every story delivered right to your inbox. Annual subscribers get 6 months free. And founding members receive early access to posts. I call them all-stars. And they get my undying love and gratitude. It's time to head into the Gridiron Briefing Room. This week, I'm joined by Michael Landers. He's the NJCAA's he's Navarro's Executive Director of Student Services and Athletics, the 2024-2025 NJCAA Athletic Director of the Year. Michael, thank you so much for joining the Cut Block Podcast. I want to start with that recognition. You've more than deserved it, more than earned it, but what does that mean to you personally and professionally with all the years you've put into junior college athletics?
Good morning, Cory. I'm glad to be here. That award is literally a team award, and I think I won it because I hired a bunch of really, really good people that work for me and work with me. Our coaching staff here at Navarro has been absolutely phenomenal in what they do with our kids on the field or court and in the classroom and in the community. And I was able to reap the benefits of their work and their success.
Definitely. And don't make no mistake, you put in a lot of work as well, but it truly is a team effort. Last week, we had a little bit of shakeup across the Southwest Junior College Football Conference. Some realignment, Snow College joining. NEO, Northeastern Oklahoma A&M, is headed up to join KJCC in the Iowa Alliance. What was the driving force behind these decisions from your perspective?
You know, it's kind of funny how some things just kind of work out. Timing just happens the right way. We were July and August, we're working on a new schedule for our league. We have a 2-year rotating cycle of schedules, and we were due up to draw numbers for the fall 26 and fall 27 schedules. While we were waiting on all the votes, NEO had not put their vote in yet. And I called their AD, Joe Renfro, and I was like, hey, Joe, where are we at? He goes, well, we got some things going. Can you give me a few more days until we vote? And I said, sure. And I just kind of off the cuff said, well, are y'all thinking about leaving? And it's a concern that we'd had in our league for a number of years, just because of the distance they have to travel in our league. And there's a number of Kansas schools that are much closer to them than they are to our Texas schools. And he goes, well, he said, we're having some discussions. And he called me back about 3 days later and said, hey, we're going to leave the conference. We're going to head to the Jayhawk and play in their scheduling alliance. And so literally I had that call with Joe. 2 days later, Rob Nielsen, who just retired as the AD at Snow, called me and said, hey, would y'all consider letting us just play a conference schedule? You know, we're looking for games. They're an independent out west, and they have a really hard time finding games. And he said, we're looking for a scheduling alliance. And I said, well, Rob, it's funny that you called right now, because there may be a place for you. And that phone call led to several meetings with our head coaches in our league. They were all on board with it. Then that moved to our ADs, and ADs were excited about the possibilities, and then our presidents got on board as well. So it literally worked out at the perfect time. I think it's a great move for our league. It's good for Snow. It's good for the Southwest Junior College Conference, and it's good for the NJCAA.
One thing I'm touching on in my opinion piece about this tomorrow, and I've heard from some people at NEO, and I'm interested in your perspective. Two things. Number one, how much did the limit on out-of-state players maybe play a role? And number two, what is the reasoning behind some of that?
So in terms of NEO's decision to leave, I know they have tried for a number of years. They've asked for us to increase our number of out-of-state players. That was met with some pushback, and that started years ago from our conference presidents. They wanted a limit on it. You know, back when I first got in the league in 2000, we were allowed 5 out-of-state or transfer players on the roster, and that was it.
Yes.
We went from 5 to 10, 10 to 15. And so I think that had something to do with NEO's decision. I think this is just my opinion. I think it was more financial for them in terms of the money they're going to be able to save on travel with the Jayhawk schedule as compared to what they have with our schedule. So I think it was probably a combination of both of those things. And, you know, I said we've had this limit on our rosters for decades. And part of that is because of the mission of junior colleges, and especially in the state of Texas, and trying to serve our population. We're very fortunate in the state of Texas in that our high school football is so good that there's a number of players. We can field great rosters across our league with predominantly Texas players. However, we've kind of had a shift the last 5 or 6 years. And that's, you know, that falls right in line with the NCAA and the transfer portal, the number of players that are moving. And so we have made the decision to relax some of our rules. I think, you know, beginning in fall of 26, we're going to go to a limit for the Texas schools of 25 out-of-staters. And what we were hearing from our coaches is the biggest part of that is because of the transfer portal, and Division I's and Division II's literally trying to fill parts of their roster in June and July. You know, we'd have players on all of our campuses that went through spring ball with our teams and, you know, might have been enrolled in summer school. And then all of a sudden, you know, they're on our 2 deep, you know, headed into the fall. And all of a sudden, you know, somebody comes and takes them out, gets them a scholarship and moves them on to the Division I level in July. And it's really hard at that point to maybe find someone from the state of Texas that can fill a roster spot. And that was probably the driving force for us to increase our limits going into fall of 26.
Yes, that makes complete sense because the transfer portal has changed how every level does things now. You know, with NEO leaving, but you add Snow, and Snow is a really good football team. They're continually ranked nationally. How much does this raise the profile of the conference nationally and maybe help get some Texas teams into that national title game, which we know more than anything else, you want to be in Canyon playing at West Texas A&M at the end of the season?
Without question, that's the goal of every one of our teams as they head into the season. And I think adding Snow, who has won a national championship, they played in 2 national title games in the last 15 years. They are perennially in the top 10. I think adding someone with their tradition, with their emphasis on football on their campus, they've invested in their program. I think it only strengthens our league. It gives us another highly ranked, highly respected program to add to the other 7 members of our league.
Definitely does. Now, I want to transition over to the life and some of the challenges of facing junior college athletes. We see the FBS, we see the Power Four. This is not that life at all. They have to juggle. You guys juggle limited resources. Academics are tough. Dreams of reaching the next level. From where you sit, what are the biggest challenges that the athletes themselves face day to day that fans just might not know about?
It is resources. We don't have some of the things that obviously they have at 4-year institutions. The athletes only training tables, and especially the sport of football. And we got guys in here that are 18, 19, and 20 years old, and they work hard in the weight room, they work hard on the field. And they don't necessarily have all the same nutritional resources available to them to help them gain as much weight and body build as they can at the 4-year level. And that's one. I think obviously we don't have the same staff. I can look down the hallway and tell you all 8 of our football coaches, whereas, you might be at the University of Texas and there might be 30 guys on their football coaching staff, and strength and conditioning coaches, number of trainers, sports information offices. There's a lot of things that we have to do at our level with very limited staff. A lot of people wear a lot of different hats to try to make things happen. And then I think the other part, and this is where it's gotten really difficult over the last 5 or 6 years, is it used to be a real, it wasn't easy, but it was easy to understand the recruiting process. We got kids out of high school that maybe weren't quite big enough or strong enough, needed another year or 2 of growth, or maybe they didn't have the grades. They would play 1 or 2 years of JUCO and then they'd go Division I or to a 4-year school. You knew kind of where all your recruits were coming from. With the transfer portal, our freshmen and sophomores on our team right now, they are trying to prove themselves against everybody else in JUCO. They're having to also include the high school seniors and then every 4-year kid that goes into the portal. And so there's oftentimes, right now you have 4-year programs that don't know exactly what they're looking for in their recruiting class for fall 26 because they don't know who's coming back on their team. They can have a guy that's a starter right now, has been a 2-year starter for them at North Texas, and he can decide as soon as the season ends that he's got a better offer somewhere else, and he up and leaves. Now their coaches are scrambling trying to fill those roster spots, and so it's created more opportunities in some ways, but the amount of competition for those roster spots and the talent pool has increased so much that it's really hard to navigate for some of our kids.
Do you think that the NCAA limiting the transfer portal to one window, end of the year, beginning of the year, December, January timeframe, is that going to help alleviate some of this? Because I know in JUCO, you guys always have that roster turnover. Every year I talk to coaches and the goal is to get them to the next level, but will that limiting the transfer portal kind of help some of the challenges you guys face?
I think it will. I think it's gonna calm the process down some because if it's done and they don't start making exception after exception, now when the portal is open and when it closes, and when it closes, that should give you some stability within your roster from that point forward. I think what everybody struggles with right now is, the past 2 or 3 years, your roster could literally change up until the first week of school. And I think that's really hard for anybody to try to navigate. It's not good for the athletes. It's not good for the coaches. It's hard to build a culture in your program because you don't know who's going to be there from 1 month to the next. I think this will, this is my personal thought. I think it's going to be great for JUCO because when the window closes, transfer portal window closes, you get through spring ball, those kids are not going to be able to transfer to another Division I school. If they're not happy where they're at, that may give us an influx of talent, in May or June that may not have been available to us in years past.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. Many of the listeners, they probably either watched or they know about Last Chance U and East Mississippi, and some of that was overplayed to an extent, of course, to add some drama. But what would you tell the high school coaches or the high school players, who have someone or are thinking about choosing the junior college route?
You bring up Last Chance U. Buddy Stevens is a really good friend of mine, and we never failed to give him a hard time about Last Chance U. But I will tell you, junior college is for an athlete. Unless you are a top 100 kid, it's a route everyone should consider. And the reason why I say that is you're going to be pushed. You're going to be given opportunities to improve yourself, to improve your stock, and you're going to have an opportunity from day one to go in and play. I think that's what, especially now when it's so easy to transfer, you see so many kids that, they want to go Division I. I understand that's the goal, but they get there and all of a sudden they're looking at the depth chart and they're running fourth or fifth string, and they've got guys that are 21, 22, 23, or 24 years old in front of them. And the difference in experience and strength is so great, on some of those rosters. When they come to junior college, they're going to have an opportunity from day one to earn some playing time. And you're not going to be sitting the bench. You're going to be getting reps. You're going to be able to put some film out. I think it's a chance for them to really grow and develop as people, as students, and as athletes. And everybody will tell you how much people who've played in junior college, while it's a struggle and we don't have all the resources that other programs might or other levels might, I think almost to a player, they'll tell you how much they loved their junior college experience, what it taught them, how it helped them to grow, and it's memories that they will take with them for a lifetime.
No doubt. Absolutely no doubt. Talking with Michael Landers. He is the athletic director at Navarro AD. Before we wrap up, I want to shift gears for a moment because behind every great leader, there is a great family that holds it all together. And you and your wife, Kenya, you have built an incredible foundation. You both have lives in athletics. How has your family helped keep you grounded and motivated through the ups and downs that just come through a career in college sports?
Well, I am truly blessed with my wife, who is my best friend. We have two beautiful daughters, Larkin and Michaela. They allow me to do my job. They know I miss a lot of things. I miss a lot of practices. I miss some games. I miss some trips. But they understand that I love my job and there are things that I have to be at here. And so they're very understanding of what my job entails. I have a wife that was a Division I basketball coach. She won a national championship as a basketball coach at the junior college level. She played at the University of Texas, so she understands it. And so I can literally go home and talk work, and she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And just they all support me, and we have a great time. I'm blessed with two daughters that are heavily involved in sports themselves. They're great students. They're great people. And it's truly a family affair for us.
It is, and I also want to spotlight, if people don't know the name Michaela Landers yet, they need to, because this summer, you guys were over in Italy representing Team USA on the 15U softball team. She's one of the top prospects in the 2028 class. When young players ask me, I get this question quite often: what's it take to make it at the next level? I tell them it comes down to two things: an unending love of the game and an unmatched work ethic. She embodies both of those. What is it that just makes her so special And have you seen in her approach what reminds you of success getting to each level?
I will say, I've said this to people before. Michaela is very, very talented. She's a great athlete. She has some natural gifts that give her a chance. But what I try to tell to everybody is what separates her is her work ethic, her love for the game, and her competitiveness. She literally is driven to be the best, and she puts in the time. She is constantly wanting to get swings off the tee. We work on glove work literally every single day. She loves to play. She loves to compete, and that drive is what separates her, I think, from most others, because she is simply committed to being the very best that she can possibly be. Larkin, my younger daughter, she's an 8th grader, and she's a volleyball player, and we're seeing the same thing starting to come out in her as well. And we try to instill in them all the time that, you've got to do things to separate yourselves from others, and nothing's going to be easy. And if you want to accomplish great things, if you want to accomplish things that other people can't, you have to be willing to do things that other people won't.
100%. And I cannot, if you don't follow Michael Landers on Twitter, you need to. Navarro AD, because this guy will put out those motivational messages. It inspires me all the time, because you got to be reminded nothing is free. And no matter what gifts you're given, you've got to work and cultivate those. And I just love that message that you send out all the time.
I appreciate that. You get my followers up.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I want to have you back at some point in the future, most definitely. Anytime we could talk junior college football, it is so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
Hey, I enjoyed it, Cory. Anytime you want me to jump on, just let me know.
Stay connected with me on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and more. Just search at Cory Hogue Sports, CoryHogue Sports, and you can always reach me by email directly at CoryHogueSports@gmail.com. Well, it's time to head into the weekend warm-up. It's your guide to Texas Non-FBS football for Saturday, October the 18th. Reminder, to honor my time as a combat medic, we use the 24-hour clock here, so just subtract 1,200 if you want the 12-hour version. Let's hit the ground running, and we do that this week. We start in the junior college ranks, 1,200 hours, TSBN Sports, Tyler at Cisco. The top 2 offenses and top 2 defenses in the Southwestern Junior College Football Conference collide in Cisco. Tyler's chasing its first regular season crown since 1992. Quarterback Trey Guerra has been laser focused, completing over 67% of his passes with 10 touchdowns in league play. Cisco sits 4th, but they can lock in a second straight playoff berth for the first time since 2006-2007 with 2 more wins. Their quarterback combo, Landon Vessel and Cutter Stewart, they have been efficient, combining for 11 touchdowns and just 1 pick. Tyler must win this game to keep control of the number 1 seed, home field advantage through the playoffs, and its national semifinal hopes. Cisco's playoff fate runs through this game and next week at Navarro. Buckle up. This game is huge. Meanwhile, in Marshall, at 1,300 hours on ETBU Plus, Hardin Simmons at East Texas Baptist, and the Cowboys are rolling at 5-0 and had a beatdown of their arch rival UMHB, Mary Hardin Baylor, 34-7 last week. ETBU is coming off a frustrating loss to Howard Payne, and they're going to be looking to punch back on their homecoming. HSU controls the ASC race. Convincing win here can nearly seal it. ETBU is desperate. That makes them dangerous. Also, 1,300 hours on Flow College. Hendricks at Texas Lutheran, and now our next stop is in Seguin. It's nearly an elimination game in the SCAC title race. Texas Lutheran and Hendricks both rolled in their openers, setting the stage for a must-win. Freshman Reese Dietrich has stepped up and quarterback in the loss of Caden Bosanko for TLU. He's tossed 6 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. His go-to target, Caleb Camarillo, is averaging over 30 yards per catch. Hendricks has a veteran quarterback themselves, Jacob Bunoff. He's got 10 touchdowns and 2 picks this year, and a big play threat in Weston Bruce on the outside. He's racked up 677 yards receiving. The winner takes a major step towards making the SCAC title game in Little Rock. Expect some fireworks in this one. In the Pacific Northwest at 1505 hours, 1505 on Flow College. UT Permian Basin visits Western Oregon, and the Falcons take their playoff push on the road. This time they're going to Monmouth, Oregon. The Falcons are battle-tested, but they're also banged up after facing Angelo State and Central Washington the last 2 weeks. Quarterback Cannon Gibson, he's carried this team, leading in both passing and rushing, and the defense remains one of Division II's best. Western Oregon is 3-1 in the Lone Star Conference, and they thrive on defense and power running, averaging 162 yards on the ground. The long trip and injuries make this a dangerous spot for UTPB. Every game from here on out has playoff weight for the Falcons in a stacked Super Region 4. Continue on with our afternoon as we head to Baton Rouge for one of the best homecoming atmospheres in the country as Prairie View A&M meets Southern at 1600 hours, when you can watch that on HBCU Go. PV rolls in rested, leading the SWAC West at 3-0. The Panthers' defense has been stellar, allowing just 22.5 points per game behind linebacker Kennedy Parker and defensive back Malik Gukaki. Southern, on the other hand, is reeling. 4 straight losses and struggling to keep opponents under 30. Still, defensive end Kelby Givens is a monster. Top 2 in the FCS in sacks and tackles for loss. A win for PVAMU all but locks up a trip to the SWAC title game. Southern's fighting for pride and survival. We shift on to the night games, and first place we're headed to is Stephenville, Texas, where it's homecoming for the Tarleton Texans as they host West Virginia at 1800 hours on ESPN+. And Tarleton is chasing perfection. The Texans are 7-0 despite losing quarterback Victor Gabalis and multiple running backs the last 2 weeks. But backup Daniel Greek has kept this offense rolling. And third-string quarterback turned running back last week, James Page, ran for 114 yards and 4 touchdowns at Utah Tech last week. West Georgia started the year 5-0, but they've stumbled against Awesome P and Abilene Christian recently. Their defense is legit, though, led by David Hogue, who leads the UAC in tackles for loss and sacks. By the way, no relation, spelled differently as well. Tarleton's tied for first with ACU. And a win here keeps them on course for their first UAC title. Memorial Stadium will be rocking. Across the state in Nacogdoches at 1800 hours on ESPN+, Nichols travels in to face Stephen F. Austin. SFA is riding a 4-game win streak and sits atop the Southland alongside Lamar and Southeastern. They also had a week off. Nichols hasn't won a game since week 0, and they haven't scored 20 points since early September. The Jacks need this one to stay in the title hunt. With a rested roster coming off their bye week, I expect them to handle some business. At 1900 hours, we head to Canyon. The wagon wheel is on the line as Eastern New Mexico visits West Texas A&M on Flow College. The Buffs are fresh off a bye, and they've won 3 of their last 4. That defense that was leaky to start the year, they've tightened up, allowing just 7 points in each of their last 2 games. But look, the Greyhounds' flexbone attack always causes problems. They've lost 3 of 4, but 2 of those came against Angelo State and Central Washington. No shame in those. RJ Martinez for WT, he needs another strong performance to keep the wagon wheel in Canyon and keep the Buffs alive in the Lone Star Conference title race. We close out the warm map in the mountains of Utah at 1930 hours as Abilene Christian visits Southern Utah on ESPN+. ACU is red hot, outscoring its last two opponents by 46 points. They're neck and neck with Tarleton for the UAC crown and looking to rack up their second consecutive conference title. But Cedar City has been cruel. ACU lost its only game 52-14 in 2023 at Eccles Stadium. Southern Utah's dropped 5 straight games, but they always fight at home. And they're coming off a bye. If ACU wants back-to-back conference titles, this one they can't overlook it. Expect a physical one in thin air. That's your weekend warm map. From Cisco to Cedar City, the battle lines are drawn across Texas and beyond. Make sure to get your snacks ready, your screens, and your streaming logins. Kickoff starts at 1200 hours sharp, and you can read more about each game in Thursday's weekend warm map on my Substack page. So stay sharp and hydrated. Thank you for joining me in this week's episode of the Cut Block Podcast. And want to give a big thank you to Michael Landers of Navarro for joining as well. I'll be back with another episode soon, bringing you more unfiltered truth and fearless football talk. Until then, stay safe. And remember, just because it's legal doesn't make it right. Kind of like my takes.
Thank you for listening to the Cut Block Podcast with Cory Hogue. Remember, the cut block might be legal, but that doesn't make it right. Just like Cory Hogue's takes.